welcoming you back to Viridian Flashback. You know, as a kid, one of my favorite comic books to read was Mad Magazine. I especially loved all the humor from the pulp culture references to their original strips as well, with my personal favorite being Spy vs. Spy. And of course, with the popularity of Spy vs. Spy, there was bound to be merchandise from it, especially video games. Which brings us to the subject of today's episode, as we'll be talking about Spy vs. Spy for the Xbox. Now, before we talk about the Xbox game, I feel we should discuss the game that inspired it, the NES version. However, I don't have an NES or Spy vs. Spy, so, I can't really do much there, seeing as though I was one of those dummies that got rid of their Nintendo thinking, I'll never play it again. However, I do know someone who has the game and was nice enough to review it for me. Here to look back at the NES version of the game is my good friend Matt. Take it away.
Hello everybody, my name is Matt, or Cygnus Destroyer, the LJN Defender, that guy who likes bad games, whatever you want to call me, that's me. And Jay has asked me to talk about Spy vs. Spy for the NES, because we figured he's doing the Xbox, and I've never played the Xbox. I played the 360, but it's been about a year since I played the 360. I just do the retro. So I'm covering the retro NES version of Spy vs. Spy, which is published by Kemco Seika, who is a great NES publisher and developer. But they didn't develop this. But they're responsible for the great trilogy of Uninvited, Shadowgate, and Deja Vu, as well as the Bugs Bunny games, which a lot of people hate, but I like. But anyway, on to the mini review of Spy vs. Spy.
Spy vs. Spy originated in the pages of Mad Magazine all the way back in the 1960s. The segment became one of the most popular featured in its pages and has been a constant part of pop culture ever since. Needless to say, a video game was produced to cash in on the craze. The NES release is a port of the earlier Atari and Commodore home computer versions, and as I mentioned previously, it was published by Kemco Seika and developed by First Star Software. The premise is very simple. It's right there in the title. You play as the White Spy, and the goal is to collect all of the items such as the bag of money, passport, key, and secret papers within a preset time frame. The A button is used to examine the desks, safes, and drawers in each room, as these are where the pieces are located. The enemy spy has the same task, so you have to pick up all the loot and leave the embassy before he meddles in your affairs. To put a temporary halt to their progress, the White Spy can set up booby traps such as dynamite, a giant spring, water bucket, and time bomb inside of the furniture in each room, which is accomplished by the B button. Be careful though, as Agent Black can pull the same tricks on our hero, and a wrong move can cause the White Agent to explode or get zapped, deducting time from the clock in the process. There are ways to defuse the traps, but it's not made explicitly clear unless you read the manual, which I didn't until writing this now. Sooner or later, the two spies are going to cross paths and one-on-one close-quarter combat will ensue. If you're expecting Sonic Booms, Psycho Crushers, or Tiger Knees here, you'll sadly be disappointed. However, this isn't just a straight fist fight, as weapons like knives are available and can be found by searching in the same locations as the main booty. Either way, the action remains the same. Keep mashing the A button until one of the spy's bar is extinguished. At that point, the dead spy goes to heaven and the winner continues on their way for more searching. In order to win, it's essential to pick up the briefcase. Without it, the spy can only hold one item at a time, so try to find that first. Once all the items are picked up and the exit is reached, a small cutscene plays showing your victory over the adversary. But they're nothing special. There are 8 stages in Spy vs. Spy, which can be changed at any time. The overall playstyle remains the same, but the AI's skill level increases and the number of rooms and floors multiplies. There is a map, accessed by the B button, that helps in navigating the expanded level layouts, but it's not always that clear where to go or where the items are. The allotted time increases with each bump, meaning that stage 1 has 5 minutes on the clock, but the final area has a generous 20 minutes. Still, it can get very confusing, and the minimal fun factor that the game had diminished with each escalation. Not even the musical genius Hiroyuki Masuno, the man behind most of the Kemco Seika NES soundtracks, can save this port from being anything but average. I don't blame him though. He just replicated the music from the original versions of the game. If the soundtrack was the true Masuno original, it would be so much better than this repetitive, overly trebly tune. The sound effects are also very high-pitched and screechy, and belong more at home on an Atari console. Which is fitting since that's where it originated. Nothing in Spy vs. Spy is exceptional, but I'll be lenient on it since it's a port of an early 80s Commodore game. Still, I won't be playing it anytime soon.
So there we go. That's Spy vs. Spy and what I think about it. It's not a horrible game. I've definitely played worse. But as a single player experience, it's just not very fun. Even though I played it for about an hour, I only really had fun with it for about 10 minutes. Most of the time was spent exploring all the different levels and getting footage of that, seeing how they differ from each other. It definitely makes it harder as you ramp up the difficulty. And you have all the extra rooms and levels, so it becomes a pain. So I really can't recommend Spy vs. Spy that much. I mean, unless you're a huge Mad Magazine fan or a huge NES fan. That's about it. As far as how much it costs, I'm not sure. I only picked it up for less than $10. It's probably gone up since then, but probably not that much. So, like I said, unless you're a huge NES fan or Mad Magazine fan, I'd say stay away from this. So, Spy vs. Spy, it's okay. It'd probably be more fun if you had a buddy with you, but as a single player experience, it's nah. So, there we go. There's Spy vs. Spy. So, over to you, Mr. Dali Popka. Hey, I pronounced it right, unlike my 1,000 subs video. So, yes, I've redeemed myself over that. So, back to you, Mr. J.
Thanks, Matt, for that awesome and very high-defined review. Kind of makes my show look very... Anyway, let's talk about the Xbox version and see how it fares up.
Released on April 6, 2005, developed by Vicious Cycle and published by Global Star, Spy vs. Spy is an updated version to the NES Classic. There is a story mode in the game, but the plot is just fluff. Regardless of which spy you pick, your job is to steal blueprints from the other spy's team.
Okay, so the story's a little paper thin, but how does the gameplay fare out?
Spy vs. Spy is a third-person action platformer similar to another game I reviewed, Armed and Dangerous, where the objective is to steal blueprints and escape before the other spy does. To hinder his progress, you can place traps inside safes to fool your enemy. If you come face to face with the other spy, you can duel it out in hand-to-hand spy fu.
I didn't make that up. That's actually what they call it in the game. Spy. Foo.
New to this update are a few different modes to choose from. The aforementioned story mode is a single-player affair. The only real difference with this mode is you have additional enemies to fight along with the other spy. You also have objectives to complete while collecting the items you need. Classic mode is what the name implies, a 3D version of the original game. Here, the gameplay is roughly the same as the original, with the office level intact. You can, however, change up the rules a bit, like having more weapons instead of hand-to-hand combat, and having up to 4 players with the inclusion of a red and blue spy. Modern mode plays similar to classic mode with a few adjustments. First, you can play on different stages. You then have access to a workbench which allows you to purchase weapons, traps, and defense items. You buy these things by collecting coins from defeating your enemies. The goal is still the same, however, to get the blueprints and escape, just with raised stakes. If you feel like you just want to shoot something, Spy vs. Spy also has your standard deathmatch, capture the flag, King of the Hill modes as well. For multiplayer action, you can play split screen and system link. This game did support Xbox Live, but since that's gone, you're going to need to see if it has a big following on Xlink. A cool feature to this game is Spy, where you can customize your spy's look with costume pieces that you collect while playing through the single-player game, making each spy unique. All of this crazy mayhem is thankfully brought together by a pretty good control setup. However, the lock-on can be a bit of a pain.
Okay, so the gameplay's pretty faithful to the original with some pretty nice upgrades thrown in. Let's see how the presentation holds up.
Graphically, the game's not bad to look at. The spies look faithful to their comic counterparts, and other enemies in the game look comical as well. The level design is pretty decent as well, with a few different locales that fit the universe of the comic. On the audio side, the music has a nice 60s spy movie feel to it and is a lot better to listen to than the one track on the NES. Sorry you had to hear that over and over, Matt. Voiceovers don't really exist except for the noises that the spy makes, and those can get annoying a little bit.
So overall, can Spy vs. Spy steal a spot in your Xbox collection? Sure! It's a pretty fun game, by yourself or with friends, plus it's a decent piece of Spy vs. Spy memorabilia. Price-wise on Amazon, it goes for about $65 new and $15 used. And while it's a fun game, I highly recommend you save the extra cash and go with used. Spy vs. Spy was also released on the PlayStation 2, but only in the PAL territories. So technically, this was an Xbox exclusive for us in the States. Hooray! Well, as always, I'm the Dali Popka, and if you want to play retro, try going green. I'll see you next time.